You don't need a manager. That's the topic of discussion for today. Now, there's some artists that do need managers, maybe, and we're gonna make an argument for that, but actually there's a real idea that you don't need a manager today because we have a different landscape. That's antiquated thinking. We're gonna actually play this clip and then get right into exactly what we've seen, real situations, and how some artists might wanna think about their situation differently. Check this out. This is David Bowie. If y'all don't know who he is, just know that he was a poppin' rock star. Being told by John Lennon, also poppin' legacy legend, old school, that he doesn't need a manager.
The song Fame.
Yeah.
Lennon worked on that with you.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Tell me about that.
It came out of a conversation that we had. I said, you know, I hate this manager that I've got. What can I do about it? You know, how do I get a new manager? And he said, stop right there. No management. You don't need management. I mean, he was the first artist I'd ever met who told me that I didn't need management, that it was not necessary, you know, and bless him, forever after that, I did get rid of that manager, and I virtually managed myself my entire life. I've had business advisors and all that, but the idea of management has never crossed my path again since 77-ish.
You said the idea of management never crossed my path again. Just said it so poetically. No management necessary. We changed the name of the channel. But there's a lot of things to pull from that because I don't think that works for every artist. So let's pull back. We got to get a little specific. David Bowie, he said 77. David Bowie was already broken as an act by that time. So that matters as well, just for context. But I don't think it's not all about you have to be big to not need a manager.
Yeah.
Because there's some artists that are just very entrepreneurial, they're very headstrong, and they also have a vision and a way of moving where they might not necessarily want a traditional manager. Now, there's two ways to think about it. The traditional manager is you manage me, all right? And that's how they're thinking about it and controlling my business. But then you can also hire someone who manages aspects of your company. So you're a manager over digital marketing, you're a manager over this type of business and that aspect of business, like you're hiring somebody for a role. And that's what I think David Bowie did, and so many of these artists who don't have the traditional aspect of a manager who's like this partner, 20% all of my business, over all of my business. It's like, all right, you can hire employees or give people a stake in an aspect of your business, but not all of your business. So you can win from my content or some of these, or get a percentage of some of my songs, but it's not the same as that management stake and agreement. That's what I've seen a lot of, and I think it works heavily today.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because I mean, it kind of goes back to the conversation we had briefly on the other episode, right? Like artists or managers were traditionally looked at as people who went and got opportunities. Even the managers today are more so looked at as people who build the business for the artists. Yeah. And to your point, right, and I think it is something that artists do have to realistically think about, like, do I need a management or do I just need a particular person to handle certain roles? Because I do think it's powerful to think about this advice coming from John Lennon, because I think the two biggest reasons artists think they need a manager is either to help them get opportunities or to help manage opportunities they have coming in. Right, those are kind of like the two biggest things we look at. So if someone is, I'm assuming, as busy, you know what I'm saying, as sought after, you know what I'm saying, probably has a million things coming his way a day, especially at that time. John Lennon is thinking that way. That to me says a lot, right? Like that to me says that, okay, there is a process and a system that even an artist that big could build out to where they could self-sustain and manage it, which means that there has to be a similar process that artists that are smaller than him could do. You know what I'm saying? If the artist with a million opportunities come in a day can manage it, then there's no reason why the artist with 100 opportunities come in a year.
Question for you. If you had a few more key additional pieces to your team and the proper marketing structure, how much more money do you think you can make as an artist, a manager, a label? Well, here's a unique opportunity because we are looking for 10 artists to not just run a campaign for, we really want to be on your team for a full year. On your team. This is a unique situation and it's not just for anybody. So listen up. You have to have good music. We're going to listen to your music. We have to have legitimate conversations. We're going to vet this. This is heavily vetted to make sure we're working with the right artist, because this isn't just a one-off campaign or just having a couple of consulting calls. We will really be going to work for you in moments, setting certain things up. So if that all sounds good to you, let me add 2 more criteria. Our focus is on making you money. Yes, we can help artists get streams. We can help artists blow up and break songs. We still have all types of services and campaigns and things that we can help when it comes to that. But that's not what these spaces are for. These spaces are specifically for artists who are looking to make money, and we're going to be on your team focusing on the money making aspect. So if that still sounds of interest to you, then we have one last criteria, which is this cost $10,000, which may sound like a lot of money to many of you who are really just getting started. But those of you who know what we do, what we've done, and how much it can cost to work to get some of the results that we've gotten, this is a huge discount, especially considering the fact that we're talking about focusing on making money and not pouring that money into some streams that are barely going to give you any money back. Now, if that doesn't make sense for you, that's completely fine. We still have plenty of services and campaigns. We have plenty of free videos. We have plenty of very affordable courses, free courses, less than $20 courses. But for those who want some people on their team for a year, working on getting them to crack the code on creating a fan base that loves them and mobilizes when you need them to move and monetizes when you need them to support you, this is what this is for. You can apply at the link below this video or go to nolabelsnecessary.com/grow. Again, that's nolabelsnecessary.com/grow. You touched on something in our other conversation. We didn't get fully deep into it, but you talked about managers also being treated like contractors.
Yeah.
Can you like go back to that too? Like the Kanye scooters and like all that stuff?
Yeah, so I was saying I noticed that there are artists who are treating managers like contractors who are helping them get over a specific goal. So I brought up the example of like Kanye and Scooter Braun's situation. I believe that one of the biggest reasons that Kanye wanted him to be a manager was to kind of like help fix some things with his brand, help like open him up in some worlds that he wasn't in. I've seen examples where, you know, maybe a manager is tied in with a certain group of producers or artists, and an artist wants to align themselves with that manager to get access to that creative group or get access to people. So I do think that a lot of artists today are looking at, and so many managers are coming in with like these really specific skill sets, right? Hey, I'm really good in the sports market. Hey, I'm really good at booking and touring. I'm really good at selling merch. I'm really good at social. So I think that artists are kind of treating managers no different than they would treat like a marketing agency or a creative agency. I'm going to work with you for a specific amount of time towards a specific goal. You know what I'm saying? I'm no longer looking at you as being or handling everything that encompasses my career anymore, right? I think ideally artists do still kind of want that, right? Like I think that probably most artists would take a manager if they came in and said like, hey, let me take all of this off of your plate. Let me take all of this off your back. But I just think that I think a lot of managers are moving away from that and getting a lot more specialized because artists are looking for more specialized managers for certain situations.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's interesting because you also just can't have somebody who's great at all the stuff that artists have to do these days. There's so many more facets to the business. It used to be pretty much touring, booking, you know, help with the release of the song, but the label did so much of that aspect too. The managers help a lot more with the marketing than they used to. If anything, you might have a manager who had a little PR finesse or whatever, but he didn't need it per se. All right. So yeah, if you're on the road and moving, it's nice to understand how to engage with fans. But today it's like, okay, cool. We got somebody who can manage me on the true specific music side. But what happens if I want to do acting, right? So those have traditionally kind of been set aside. But then what if I want to monetize my brand into some product, like build a product out? Is the manager necessarily good for that? And what does that look like? And what does it look like to do content to the extent that I do it today? You could technically have somebody who is great in those areas just doing those things. Why do I give 20% of my business? I'm not saying that makes sense for everybody, and there are some people who are worth it. But once you get to a certain level, especially then those are questions that are going to come into more and more artists, mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of managers even are not managing now because they realize that equation doesn't add up as simply as it used to, and they don't even want to take the risk of managing because it's like, why do this and put myself in this risky position? Let me find something that I can have more control of. So I think the whole dynamic today of manager versus artist is the highest quality managers aren't going to want to be confined to that same situation or them be in as risky of a situation, and the highest level of artists aren't going to want to have somebody take that much of their business. And it'll be a lot more of what you just said. Hey, Scooter, can you help me get through this bad PR moment and navigate what I should do? Like David Bowie said, I've considered consultants. All right, so you come in again, and what are we working on? It's more goal oriented, and then what move do we make from there? I think we're going to get a lot more of that as artists hit a certain threshold, but again, this isn't everybody, because some artists, especially if you aren't business oriented or you don't, or a lot of that stuff frustrates you, and you do feel like you just need somebody who's a stopgap between whatever comes my way outside of the creative, then yeah, get a manager, find that person.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think as the industry continues moving the way it moves, right, we're seeing less of these structured entities kind of controlling this stuff. We're seeing more like independent contractors, more people who exit the industry or maybe the major industry and kind of start their own thing. And I think that relationship overall is probably a lot more beneficial. Because I mean, to your point, right, if I'm John Lennon and the most stressful thing for me right now is responding to these 100,000 emails I got, do I want to get somebody 20%, or would I rather find somebody and be like, hey, I'll pay you $100K a year to comb through my emails and send me the ones that look like good opportunities, exactly. and I'll figure it out, right? Like most artists would go for that, right? And I think that even from a professional stance, and this is where I could be wrong, but I think to your point, I think that there was a time where, like I said, I think managers were kind of forced to be more of like the mouthpiece, because to your point, the label was taking care of everything else. So it was less about like what specific, and I want to say less of, because that might not be fair, but I could be wrong, but I think it was less of what specific niche or role can I fill for you, and more so like how can I help you take what they're cultivating and like open doors that either they don't have time to go open because they're doing all the other stuff, or that no one saw it but me or whatever. But to your point, now if it's like, hey, I got Sean helping me with marketing, I got Corey helping me with my performance, I got, I don't know, EJ helping me with my content, and I got Steve helping me with my email building, like I may not really need you for that long anyway. I might not even need to put that on you. Like you can stay in whatever your bag is, whatever your specific niche is, and it doesn't feel like I'm not getting all the value I should be getting from you as a manager. Because I've seen that, right? Like you'll see the manager who's maybe great at getting brand deals and great at working the rooms, but then the artist is mad that they're not sonically tapped in to help them with their sound, right? Or you might get the reverse. You might get a manager who's great at building relationships with artists and producers and key creators, but like he ain't the guy that's about to walk up in the room and shake the dude in the hand with the suit hand and take him, like saying he ain't that guy, but like he'll get crucified for it. You know what I'm saying? He'll get vilified when the time comes for it. So I think that it's going to allow for more of those specialized managers to really shine without the burden of like the other things that they either don't want to do or just aren't good at. You know what I'm saying?
That's real. And key point again, I don't want to just say, hey, artists, y'all don't need managers. Some form of fashion, whatever the technical agreement is, right? Hey, I just get 10-20% of everything that's coming in, or it's, hey, I'm hiring somebody, but you got to have that money, or some way to convince that person to invest that time if they're not getting a percentage directly. But there's so much value in still having people that can be that that padding between you and the other issues, so you can stay in your creative space. I had a situation recently where I made some commentary on a client's videos, right? Just an edit, right? Cool, simple thing in my mind. And the artist goes, yeah, I mean, talks to his manager, yo, do we think we can like have those edits done or whatever? I'm like, I think that's kind of a weird question, but but then when he elaborates, it's like, oh, what happened was the video person who did the edits, there was a situation where the video person just like they had a fail, right? They were just messing stuff up. Things were getting out of hand. They weren't being reliable as they should be. Let's just say that. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
They weren't being as reliable as they should be. As a result of holding things up, the artist like tells the manager, like, just think about Kanye go off of energy. It sounds like that happened, and the manager's like, the artist is like, yo, get rid of him. I don't ever want to see this person again. Like, just talking crazy. Manager tell him that. And the manager goes, so now with this context, artist asks the manager, do you think we can ever get that content, like the edits? And then the manager goes, fortunately, when I talk to him, I ain't quite telling what you told me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, we'll be all right.
He said he preserved the relationship.
He preserved the relationship. You get what I'm saying? Not that he was happy with the guy either, but he said it a little bit differently and things and how they are. So because of the stress in so many moments, whether you might react crazy on one end or crazy on another end, or it might be completely merited, but still the stress of even having to manage and have these conversations is a real thing. You need somebody, even just for those things, as the ball continues to roll, so your mind can stay locked in for the game, whether it's the performance or whatever you're supposed to be doing. So look, the functions will still exist. As a matter of fact, there's more functions that you need to fill in the gaps, whether we call it management, whether the compensation looks like what we're used to, we don't know. You make that decision for yourself, but the value is still there for sure.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
All right, and let us know what y'all think. And managers, don't be too mad at us, man. Let us know what y'all think. This is yet another episode of No Labels Necessary. I'm Raymond Sean.
And I'm Corey.
And we out.
Peace.